Very good evening. I had promised in my last workshop that I will allow the new students to enter my course, to begin my course from Thursday. So several of you are joining me today, and I welcome the new students. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for selecting me as your teacher. Thank you for showing this trust. Having said that, I had also earlier announced that I will be starting with human and economic geography. That will be the second part of the geography syllabus. The first part is obviously the physical geography. So we generally divide geography in physical geography and human geography. Now, to be honest to my student community, I have already taught the physical geography part, and the human and economic geography, which is mostly based on the arts discipline, like concepts from sociology, concepts from economy, geopolitical concepts, population, demography, human sciences, anthropology also, study of tribes and races. So the second part and the first part, even though they are linked, I didn't deny this fact. I never denied this fact that geography, the human geography, is not linked with physical geography. But still, we can have a decent start, a decent beginning with human economic geography, because physical geography has not great influence on it. Now, why I didn't allow you to enter my course, to join my course for all these 2 months, despite your admissions, despite your inquiries, because if you take the course, if you begin the course in between, and I'm teaching the geology of the physical geology of peninsula, and I'm talking about the Dharwadian rock system and the Charnockite rocks, garnetiferous granite, so you will be in trouble. You will be in serious trouble. And if I'm teaching, say, El Nino and Modoki and dipoles and Kelvin wave and whatnot, Rossby waves, so you will be in trouble. You will always feel that either the teacher is not comprehensive, or geography as a discipline is very incomprehensible. That is what may hit your mind. So I always allow new students to enter from the human and economic geography. So I welcome the new students, and my old students are already there. You will have a different flavor from today, different level of teaching, a different kind of vocabulary. Learning human and economic geography is as mesmerizing as it was with physical geography. Physical geography may you learn the atmosphere, the hydrosphere, the biosphere. You learn about the landsphere, the cryosphere. Now, all these spheres together form biosphere, and biosphere, the central theme of biosphere, the study of biosphere, it all hinges around the study of man. And man is not only surrounded by his physical environment, but also by his socio-political environment, economic environment, cultural environment, religious environment. And our behavior, our thinking, our external manifestation of the internal sentiments, they all are governed by our external environment, because the external environment acts as a stimuli. Social environment sometimes enslaves your mind and determines your thinking. So there will be a beautiful learning with human and economic geography. You will learn why there is a racial difference, why there are certain demographic behavior, why there are industries located at the place they are found, why the resource distribution is so uneven, so heterogeneous in this world. Now, all these regional development planning, the political issues, so they're all part of human and economic geography. So we are going to begin with one of the most interesting parts of geography, where geography ceases to be the science and it adopts a very different frame, it adopts a very different structure, and that structure is completely a human science. Having said that, I wanted to tell you that I'm playing with a different idea. Now, the new idea is that since we have completed physical geography, and physical geography is strongly linked with the contemporary issues. If you see the syllabus, old or my new students or all those who are watching me now, if you see the geography optional syllabus, the last topic of paper 2, that is contemporary issues. Now, in the contemporary issues, we just go through, if it is possible now, we just go through them. The topics are landslides, floods, drought, maybe earthquake, tsunami, agricultural unrest. It is going on Tikri and other borders. And maybe industrial unrest, maybe the pollution issues. So all these different parts of the socio-economic environment and also the physical environment have been amalgamated, have been clubbed into a section, and that is your contemporary issues. Now, I am playing with this idea since morning, playing with this idea that once we have completed monsoon, the topic which must follow shall be flood and drought. And since we have learned the geology of India, the next topic should be earthquake, seismicity, and landslides, and the tsunami, etc. So from today, I am not going to begin human and economic geography. Now, the new students, don't get in trouble. You are going to continue with me, because I am promising you that wherever some physical concept will be involved, say some concept of monsoon will be involved, so I will be giving you the full explanation. So you will be at ease. You won't find out of place. You will be completely moving with the flow of the class. And I hope you will trust me, and you will continue to be with me. Now, here's a question striking my mind, that if I teach flood, say if I am teaching flood, or say I am teaching tsunami, so it involves learning of monsoon, learning of earthquakes, learning of plate movements. Yes, I agree. But that is 10% of it. Taking example of maybe earthquake, which I may discuss today. So if I take example of earthquake, now the principles of earthquake, the causes of formation of earthquakes, they will never be asked in contemporary issues. What is asked in contemporary issues is the distribution of earthquake, the spatial dimension of the earthquake. Now, in the spatial dimension of the earthquake, or the distribution of the earthquake in simple language, what we learn that why Himalayan zone is having the highest intensity and magnitude of earthquake. Why Bhuj will have earthquake? Where all are the fault lines in India? Which all places are more prone to earthquake? Seismic prone zones are with highest intensity and magnitude of earthquake. Where all they are placed? Where all they are located? Now, so it will not pose any difficulty. I am making it simple and one-liner for you, that my students, continue with today. Even if you are a newcomer, continue with today. And even if I deal with concepts like flood or drought or contemporary issues, you will find it at ease, because these topics are in GS also, general studies also. Geography has a very strong link with general studies and disaster management. So what you call disaster management in paper 3 of general studies is our contemporary issues, right? So it is something like you are preparing for GS as well as your optional. The totality of my discussion is, the sum total of my discussion is that I am not going to begin with human and economic geography today. I will be starting with the disaster, the natural disaster, the natural calamities. I will be starting today with maybe earthquake, and in the context of India, meaning the paper 2, the last topic से तुम्हारा कोर्स शुरू हो रहा है. You are going to start from what is earthquake, the distribution of earthquake, the flood, the drought, etc. I am taking care of my old batches which are continuing with me, and I am taking care of the new students also. And I am telling you again, I am repeatedly telling you that I have not allowed new students to join my course 5 days back, 10 days back, even 30, 40 days back. I was holding your admissions. Reason was that I always felt that if you begin in between physical geography, you will be in trouble. But I, the same person, today I feel that you can begin with the natural disaster, the contemporary issues, because they are mostly based on the current affairs. And there is no great science involved here. It is only commonsensical. So what is a flood? I tell you what is a flood. So flood is a hydrological condition where there is a volumetric rise in the river, so much so that agricultural fields are completely filled with what? With the water, with the flood water, inundated. Inundation of the agricultural field by the flood water of the river. Now why flood occurs? Just keep listening. Why flood occurs? It occurs because the volumetric capacity to transport the excessive water during the rainfall is less. The volumetric capacity of the river is less and the water is in excess of it. So the water is going to break the embankments and flow across the river basin, and it may cause flood. It can destroy the agricultural fields, it can destroy the crops, it can inundate the pasture lands, it can flood the jungles, the forest cover, human displacement, and humans what? Disruption in the general life will take place. That is flood. So flood is a natural calamity. I'm just giving an example that how only commonsensical it is. So there is no science involved. Or maybe while teaching flood, I will tell you that it is because of the La Nina effect. It is maybe because of the monsoon break. Maybe because of the shift of ITCZ over Shivalik. Now here the new students might feel that I don't know what is ITCZ. So I will give you a small explanation of ITCZ, and of course some physical geography will be involved, but not much of it. Okay. So I hope you will be quiet and you will be satisfied, and you will always have the opportunity. I am giving you opportunity to go and see my old videos also. If some of you, the new students, I am talking to the new students, if you can take out some extra 2 hours in a day, then you can see my old videos. And old videos meaning not age-old videos. These videos are simply few months back, few days back. Monsoon I was teaching 2 days back. So you can see the 5-7 days old video, and you can see that how I explain monsoon. I have taken, you trust me, I have taken around 30 to 40 classes. I feel, I don't remember exactly, but I feel I have taken 30 to 40 classes only in physical geography of India. So this batch will be known for Alok Ranjan being at length, going far and wide with this syllabus. I'm trying to cover everything which is possible, everything which is contemporary, related to current, and whatever knowledge I could gain from the geographical websites. I gave everything to this batch. Not to say that I haven't given everything to my last batches, but always the next batch is a better batch. Why it is so? Because the things are changing with time. Oh, okay. So new students who are joining me today, you can go back and you can see the old videos. You can see right from oceanography, which was taught in November month. So from November till today, you can see those videos and you can gain concepts, and then you have the opportunity to take live classes also. So whatever you want, you can have both ways. Chalo, okay. Now, so what I'm going to start today is the contemporary issues. ये क्या है पीछे? चलो, okay. So there's your paper 2, contemporary issues, paper 2. This will be, I think, this is in section B, paper 2, and the last topic. So it will be topic number, I think topic number 10, contemporary issues. This is the last topic of your paper 2. And this contemporary issues, may you have earthquakes, tsunami. Tsunami will be really interesting. Tsunami, then maybe floods, drought, maybe landslides, or maybe there is a topic which is ecological issues in India. So what is the meaning of ecological issues in India? It includes all these 5 plus soil erosion. Which all areas are facing soil erosion in the context of India, remember it. And then second, the areas which have been deforested. The areas which are deforested. And then third, pollution. Pollution can be clubbed into urban as well as rural. Rural and urban pollution. Urban areas have industries and the type of pollutants are very distinct from the rural areas. So it varies. Then you can have classification like the river pollution or thermal pollution, river pollution, and you can have so many, thermal pollution, nuclear pollution. You can have a list of it. I will talk about it later on. So ecological issues in India. Now another can be added here, which is very cyclonic, and there is one more to be added, which is very much prevalent today, it seems, is epidemics. Now I request you to see the syllabus of geography, and you will find all these burning topics are in our geography optional. So if you do justice with all these topics in the context of India, don't you think that you are prepared for disaster management, right? Yes or no? And then don't you think that most of the environmental issues related to India will be covered with it? Yes. And even in your preliminary examination, questions will be coming from epidemics. Now, most of the coaching tutors, they believe that question has come from science. But I always say to my students that no, the question has come from geography. So even if there is a question on malaria or dengue or any pandemic like COVID, etc., the question is also from geography. We also have a say, we also have our own chunk with this topic, right? And if there is any question on water erosion, soil erosion, soil conservation in context of India, methods of soil conservation, that is all part of geography, not part of ecology and environment. Because I don't separate ecology and environment from geography. If I separate geography from ecology and environment, it simply means that I am doing injustice to geography. Then what is geography without ecology and environment? Even if we study climatology, there is a context of ecology and environment. Even if there is a study of tribes, human races, or any demography, it is in the context of any settlement, any regional development planning aspect, any political relationships. We always see it in the context of environment. So these are your topics. I mean, question can come from deforestation in the context of India or in the world context. Already you have gone through the biogeography and the environmental geography in paper 1. So most of you will be prepared on this, right? But I'm taking it fresh because they need different approach. They need a different kind of discussion because it is in the context of India, and this is in the context of your paper 2, and paper 2 requires a different approach and different set of writing. So say pollution. If you read pollution in the context of India, dividing it in urban and rural, then dividing it into the air pollution, the water pollution, the sound pollution, the thermal pollution, the nuclear pollution, river pollution. So if you classify in terms of all this, then it makes a very large study. Quantum of study will be much more. And looking at this quantum of study, and if you do justice to these topics, you are very well prepared for prelims. I'm telling you, I'm taking this opportunity to convey one very strong message to my students that there is a new tendency among coaching institutes to classify the PT questions as coming from forestry, coming from agricultural sciences, coming from environmental sciences. So I plead to them. I'm not praying, I'm pleading, I'm arguing with them, and take my argument that UPSC never asks questions from any professional course or any specialized course. It's a simple graduation based examination, and it only takes the realm of goes into the realm of the simple and the ordinary subjects which are not professional, which are not specialized. They take questions from constitution and polity. They take questions from history. They take questions from economy. They take questions from the newspaper, current affairs. Then why the hell they will take questions from the environmental sciences, which are a specialized subject? Now here is a counter question to the people who are against my ideas. The counter question is, UPSC never asks anything from mechanical engineering. They never ask from civil engineering. They never raise any question from chemical engineering. They never even ask questions from chemistry. Do they ask questions from chemistry? Have ever they asked questions from BSc chemistry? Never. Have they asked questions from physics? BSc Physics, MSc Physics? Never. Have they asked questions from mathematics, MSc Mathematics, BSc Mathematics? Never. They maintain that 10th class standard even for sciences, or maybe class 12 standard. The new trend is, little lifted. So they can ask questions from class 12 up to class 12 till you're schooling. And then you have a graduation subject. Okay? Now, I don't know why this coaching institute people will classify always that these particular questions have been taken from forestry. These questions have been taken from environmental sciences. They try to demean geography because these people have never taught geography. They don't know the realm of geography. They never understand the realm of geography. They can never understand this fact that geography's tentacles are deeply rooted into so many sciences and so many art subjects, so many humanistic sciences, right? So let's not debate on it, but I'm convincing my own students who have taken admission. I'm talking to my own student who trust me that you don't have to really panic and go on to study agricultural sciences or environmental sciences or plant genetics for your environmental questions coming from environment, etc. in prelims. The questions are simply from new discoveries. Say there is a new species which have been discovered in the Nilgiris or the Western Ghats that will come as a newspaper. and that will come as a news in Hindu newspaper or any newspaper, and that becomes a news. So that topic is from the biodiversity of Nilgiris. Western Ghats are having one of the highest biodiversities in India. So the question will be coming from the biodiversity zones of India. Now in biodiversity zone, if there is a new species discovered, you have to know about it. That is current affair. But biodiversity zone is taught in geography, and it has to be taught in geography. Even biodiversity hotspots has to be taught in geography, and I will be teaching you the hotspots, biodiversity hotspots here. It has to be done because then only you can deal with the ecological issues. Ecological hotspots has to be done here. What are the ecological hotspots in India? What is the meaning of hotspot? And then what is the keystone? Keystone theory. And what comes more from ecology in the Indian context is the PAVE theory. The PAVE theory. Even for mains it is important. PAVE theory can be asked in mains. Hotspot theory can be asked in mains. Keystone theory can be asked in mains. Since as a teacher, I am so overburdened with the entire syllabus because I am a teacher who is teaching the entire geography alone. So sometime I tend to give environmental section to any expert coming from Delhi University, like you had Ojit sir from Ramjas College, Professor Ojit sir, teaching you parts of environmental geography, but I taught you the biogeography. And then I'm taking up all these contemporary issues with you. So it will give you a complete sense of fulfillment, right? Having said that, let's go to the topic now. And I'm not reading your SMS, I'm not reading your any of the queries which you are making, because I'm here to teach, because many of you wanted a demonstration class. I don't know what is a demonstration class, what you wanted to look into. And after teaching 12 years, excelling 12 years in this profession, I don't know what is a demo class. Chalo, leave all this and let's go to starting with disaster and disaster management. Now I am teaching not with the context of your GS. Obviously GS will be covered, but my context is India paper 2 optional. So all those people who are expecting that I will be teaching the policies from the administrative point of view, that will not happen. I will definitely take some of the measures to control flood. You know, the government from the government and the planning paper, Niti Aayog ka paper hai, Flood Commission of India ka hai, Water Commission of India ka hai. So I'll be taking material from those papers, but not from the NDMA, right? Because our geography is not concerned with the NDMA, etc. Right, NDMA se lenge, we will take some points, but we will be more taking points from the Flood Commission of India, from the approach of Water Commission of India, right? There was one drought prone area development program, DPAP program. So what were the dictates, the policies, the guidelines which were prescribed in the DPAP program? So such facts will be taken up in paper 2, because our purpose is not to write GS. I'm telling you, despite saying all this, the 90%, almost 100% concern of your GS disaster management will be over with these discussions. All right. Now, what is disaster? It's a very interesting topic. Let me produce you one through a flow chart. So we have environmental anomalies. Then we have environmental stress. Right? And then environmental stress, we have environmental hazards. We have environmental hazards. And from environmental hazards we have, let's understand this flow chart, it will be very useful for you. From environmental hazards we have environmental calamities. And from environmental calamities you have disaster. And from natural disaster, or whatever, natural anthropogenic disaster and disaster management. Disaster management. And then comes the catastrophe. The catastrophe. So, if you can understand this link, this will be so wonderful for you. What are environmental anomalies? Let's not try to learn natural disaster in isolation. This cannot be learned in isolation. This shall never be taught in isolation. Because as a teacher of geography, I have to differentiate between all these distinct terms. We have distinct. Now I tell you one thing. The magnitude and intensity of the phenomena is increasing. The magnitude and intensity of phenomena. So environmental stress is more magnified form of environmental anomalies. More intensified form of environmental anomalies. Similarly, environmental hazards are more intensified form of environmental stress. And when environmental hazards are more intensified, more magnified in terms of space and time, in the frame of space and time, in the frame of destruction, disruption of economy, of general life, of the developmental goals as a whole, then it becomes environmental calamities. And when environmental calamities are magnified, then it becomes disaster. And when you cannot have disaster management, when you cannot prevent or correct the disasters, then it will turn into catastrophe. And when there is a catastrophe, there is a complete destruction. So learn this flow chart, learn this sequence of events taking place. Now look here. What are environmental anomalies? I will take a very simple example for you. Very simple example for you. Environmental anomalies meaning any disruption, any deviation from the mean, from the normalcy, from the equilibrium condition. In ecology, the biotic and abiotic. What is environment? I tell you what is environment. So let's understand environment first. So what is environment? I have taken a class in the morning on the Hindi medium batch. I remember that I have drawn a picture of environment. Look, this was my Hindi medium batch. I do justice to my Hindi medium batch also, except that I write in Hindi sometimes. So हिंदी वाला हटा देते हैं, बाकी आगत निर्गत. So it will save my time. Okay. So this is the frame of environment. This is your contemporary issues. Okay. So this is the environment, and environment is composed of biotic factors and the abiotic factors. Look at this circle. Both are interacting with each other. The frame, environment is a frame in which the biotic and abiotic are interacting, and with their interaction is produced vitality, or are produced the conditions for existence, conditions for survival. That is what I'm calling it, vitality, conditions for productivity. So that creates environment. Now in environment, you can see this is the the half is the biotic component, and biotic component is divided into man. Very important part of the biotic component is man, which I have separated from biota. Biota means the vegetarian, the vegetation and the animal kingdom, the plant kingdom and the animal kingdom. You can call it plant kingdom, or you can call it assemblies of plants will be called vegetation. So rightly it is correct here, vegetation and animal kingdom, that is biota and man. So they form the biotic environment, and when the biotic environment is interacting with the abiotic, now in abiotic you can see here land, water and air, and this is written, what is written is Paryavaran, that's in Hindi. It's cool, you can read Hindi, some of you. Alright, so the abiotic and the biotic environment, they are interacting. These arrows are showing the cyclicity, the interaction with them, and we have input. What is the input? Input of energy, and this is the output of energy. All right, so this is the frame of environment. So any study of disaster management must begin with the understanding of what is an environment. Environment is a frame. Environment is a mental concept rather. I tell you, it's very, in short period of time, it's very difficult to explain, but you can understand by one simple example. I tell you something. There is a pygmy living in equatorial rainforest, Congo. So, through helicopter, I lifted that pygmy man and shifted with Eskimos in Canada, who are living in absolute cold environment. So from hot and humid environment, I shifted a man. That pygmy got married to a female in the Eskimos, with Eskimos in the cold environment. Tell me, can this man survive with the cold environment? He cannot. He can never survive. Why? Because he was product of hot and humid environment. Now, what changed? Biological anatomy being the same, he was shifted to a new environment and he died because he had zero adaptability to that environment, and there was no time for adaptability also. So he died. So what was changed? Environment. Meaning environment indeed is a factor which influences our life, our system, our what? Our well-being, our productivity, everything. Everything is controlled by our environment. So environment is said to be a frame in which phenomena exist. So a forest is a phenomena which exists in an environment. Even an species or a population of a species is a phenomena which exists in an environment. Right? Phenomena is an event. Phenomena क्या होता है? Phenomena is either an event or a thing, according to Kant. So I'm going into the philosophical part, but let me simplify here that environment is simply stated, it is a frame which is composed of biotic and abiotic components and their interaction, and their interaction produces a certain degree of temperature, a certain degree of humidity, a certain degree of productivity, a certain degree of vitality, a certain degree of energy equation, a certain degree of entropy. And when all these are calculated, the living beings, the lives which exist in that environment will have their own adaptation and reaction and adaptive radiation. I hope you understood this. So environment है क्या, उसको समझना जरूरी है. Now I tell you, let's understand that in a given environment, the biotic and abiotic components are interacting with each other through exchange of energy, through their functionality. Their functions are going to influence each other. The interaction between them, the functional exchanges between them, or what we call is the flow between them. One of the great geographers, Humboldt, has said that there is a living energy which is binding abiotic with biotic. So environment has that living energy which binds the abiotic and the biotic. I hope you understand this. I hope you are getting the feel of what is an environment. ये feel बहुत important होता है समझने के लिए. Okay, so the environment is in balance. The biotic, abiotic, they are connected by functionality, by flow, by living energy, as I said. Now they are in balance with each other. And this balance is fluctuating and dynamic balance. Fluctuating and dynamic balance meaning if you change or if you interfere with that balance, the system is going to give you certain response. If you are going to change the temperature, there will be some biodiversity loss in that giving environment, or there will be some kind of mutation taking place in that environment. Some species can become extinct in that environment. New species can grow in that environment because of simple. This is a response of the environment. That is what is the environmental response, we call it. Right? Meaning the environmental components, the biotic and abiotic are in perfect equilibrium, they are in balance, and any change in the condition, whether you are changing the biotic condition or the abiotic condition, whatever changes you bring in, the environment is going to give you a response, the system is going to give you a response. That response can be negative, that response can be positive. When it gives negative response, when you disturb that balance, when you disturb that equilibrium with the biotic and abiotic, you are going to face environmental anomaly. That is what is environmental anomaly. Paryavaraniya visangatiyan. I hope you understood what is environmental anomaly. Environmental anomaly is when there is a disruption in the equilibrium. We call it homeostatic balance. The fluctuating and dynamic equilibrium which exists between the biotic and the abiotic is the homeostatic balance which fixes the control of the entire system, right? Which fixes the control of the entire system, right? Now moving to so as I said, I made a chart for you. Where is the chart? The chart is कहाँ चला गया? ये था हमारा चार्ट. So they are called environmental anomalies. What is environment has been explained with a diagram. What is environmental anomaly? Simply stated, if there is introduction of an alien particle or like pollution, or if there is any change in the physical condition, or if there is introduction of new species in the environment will be disrupted. The processes of the environment will be disrupted. And when the processes will be disrupted, the balance, the equilibrium between the biotic and abiotic component is also disrupted. Now this disruption is called, this change is called, the introduction of new alien elements are called, they create the environmental anomalies. So disaster begins with the disruption in the homeostatic balance of a given environment. I hope you understood this point, right? If you talk about the dictation part, and if my students are very much used to writing in the class, and I give them full dictation, I explain them, I question them, then I make them write the entire syllabus. They prepare notes in my class. They keep writing, and then I suddenly get up and explain. Then again I give them some paragraphs, some decent paragraphs, and then again I explain. That is my method of teaching. Today I'm holding on because this is kind of a demonstration class. People are maybe testing me. It's very embarrassing, however, but still. So no dictation today. You can see the video time and again. You can copy it down. It's a free video for you. So you can simply write by yourself by stopping the video and then create your notes by yourself. So this is your environmental anomaly. Now what is environmental stress? If the anomalies are persistent, in time, then it will be called environmental stress. I tell you one thing, it's a wonderful example. I take a simple example from India. So there is a condition of global warming and the temperature in the tropical region has increased by 1.6 degrees centigrades. So maybe 2 degrees centigrade to simplify things. So if the temperature is 2 degrees centigrades higher in India, so the temperature conditions are much higher in the Aravalli region, Bundelkhand, temperatures are much more than normal, than mean. So there is a disruption. So that is what we will call environmental anomaly. That's environmental anomaly. If the temperature of Aravalli is not existing to its mean, it is more than the mean, we call it environmental anomaly. And now there is a case of disruption of the environmental systems there. Right? So if the temperature is more by 2 degrees centigrades and persistently for year to year, for decades now what will happen? That the environment of Aravalli will be under stress, under severe stress, because there is greater rate of evapotranspiration. And if the rate of evapotranspiration is more persistently, then there is a loss of water from the system continuously for years and decades. And finally the river beds are drying up, the watersheds are drying up, the trees are drying up. There is a overall desiccating effect in that region, and there is a loss of water, and famine, which used to strike Aravalli after a gap of 4, 5, 3 years, is striking every year, and with years to come it will be more severe with time. So severity of the drought will be more. So what has happened, that the increase in temperature by 2 degrees centigrades has caused a complete environmental stress in the Aravalli region, and this stress is creating the conditions for severe drought. Now comes environmental hazard, and when the drought has actually struck this region, this will be called environmental hazard. Hazard is a severe, perpetual, more stressed, more elongated, more magnified, more intensified form of environmental stress. It is the resultant of environmental stress which will persist for say 5 to 10 years. So we have environmental hazard, that is drought. They are hazards. अब drought आ गया तो ये hazard हो गया. Flood is a hazard. They are natural hazards, right? And when this drought will have continuity and it continue to grow, second year drought, third is also drought, there is no rainfall, so this drought will convert into a condition which will be called famine. Now famine will be an environmental calamity. So drought से famine में convert हो गया. And famine say, again, what is the difference in drought and famine? Persistent drought for over 2, 3, 4, 5 years, and there is a complete disruption in the economy, complete disruption in the general life of people, common life of people. People have started out migrating from that region. There is a food crisis in the region, that will be called famine. So drought will lead to famine, and then famine will become a natural disaster when you have what? A complete scenario where you have civil war. You can have civil war, migration, out migration of people, loss of cattle wealth, etc. Now famine, here the term will remain drought and famine, but the severity is much more. We can call it drought and famine also. ये जो सिचुएशन है वो ड्राउट ही है, ड्राउट और फैमिन का ही है, बट द कंडीशंस आर डिफरेंट, द डिग्री ऑफ डिवास्टेशन इज मच मोर, देन वी कॉल इट डिजास्टर. And if these conditions are not managed here, then what will happen, that catastrophe will come and it will end into what? Into the death of many millions, death of people, and destruction of civilizations, destruction of civilizations. Just watch this and see this entire sequence of event which is taking place. Now I have to concentrate more on what is disaster, and I will be taking this environmental hazard as well, because in geography environmental hazard term has been used, and in your general studies the natural disaster, the disaster has been used. So let's be more focused on the hazards and the disaster. But if you have to learn disaster, you have to learn the whole sequence of the entire the causal linkages which is found between these different stages of natural disaster, right, or man-made disaster. To save time, I am again going to my last class in the morning, which was on natural disaster itself in my Hindi medium batch. Okay, now what is environmental hazard? Let's go to the environmental hazard part. And in environmental hazard, let me use environmental hazard. What are environmental hazards? So hazards are generally classified as, what is environmental hazard? लिखो तो, एक डेफिनेशन लिखो तो, लिखवाते हैं, डेफिनेशन लिखना जरूरी है. लिखो, environmental hazards are extreme conditions of environmental stress induced either by the natural forces, or the anthropogenic factors, Then right, natural hazards are disruption in the homeostatic balance which exists between the biotic and the abiotic components, of the environment, of the given environment, which can trigger structural and biogenetic or economic losses economic losses to the human life लिखो, environmental hazards are classified as natural hazards, Second, anthropogenic or the man-induced hazards, and third is the socio-natural. This term has been used in the United Nations paper, socio-natural. This is a new term which is even IPCC is using. Natural hazards, very simple to be learned. What is an earthquake? Natural hazard. What is tsunami? What is volcanism or volcanic eruption? Volcanic eruptions, they're all natural hazards, right? What is anthropogenic? Man-induced. Nuclear explosion, nature is not doing any nuclear explosion, so nuclear explosion is a natural hazard. Maybe global warming, maybe acid rain, you can have so many of them. Maybe pandemic or epidemics, मैन इंड्यूस्ड है. चमगादड़ खाने कौन कहा था चाइना में, लोगों को बताओ. इज दैट आवर नेचुरल डाइट? नो. सो एंथ्रोपोजेनिक, मैन इंड्यूस्ड. सोशियो नेचुरल मीनिंग वेयर द नेचुरल causes, keep writing, the natural causes are accelerated by unscientific act of man. So where the natural causes are combined or accelerated by the unscientific act of man, that will be called socio-natural hazard. The best example could be flood. Flood could be natural, but we accelerate the process. Maybe the soil erosion, maybe drought. So what we do, we accelerate the process of the natural disaster. Okay? इसमें एंथ्रोपोजेनिक में you can have even civil strife. Here you can add famine, drought, flood. This is how we classify environmental hazards, right? Now let's go to learn what is natural disaster. I hope you have taken these notes, copied it down, and you are comfortable. I give 100% notes and dictation, don't worry, but it is given in dictation whenever it is required, so don't worry. Shivani Gupta. You can see my old videos. My classes will be 50% writing part and 50% explanation part. It is a balance between the two. The nature of the subject is different, I mean, most of the things on environment, etc., have been already discussed, so they will not be repeated. Okay, so see this chart and let's move to what is natural disaster. अब लिखवा रहे हैं ना, लिखो what is disaster. लिखिए disaster is a French term, which means des plus aster. It has two terms. लिखिए, it has been derived from des plus aster. Des meaning bad and aster meaning star. Bad star. It's a French term which has a very interesting meaning, and the meaning is bad aster. Aster meaning a star, a bad star. I tell you, in the ancient civilization, we used to predict hazards and calamities and famine and drought and the flood or the earthquake by looking at the stars and a particular combination of stars which we call nakshatra, the constellations. And then we developed the science of Jyotish. I don't know how it is correct or how far it is correct. I really don't know. Sometimes I am puzzled when some people predict and the prediction comes true. So I am puzzled sometimes, but it could be a happy coincidence. I don't know. But in ancient civilization, there was a field of science, a conjectural science, which believed in the movement of a star, clustering of a star, and they connected it with the disaster which are taking place in a civilization. Even war and invasion was predicted on the basis of. So disaster actually means bad star. लिख लिया? अब लिखिए definition. What is natural disaster? What is disaster? लिखो, according to the World Bank, natural disaster means sudden and extraordinary event of limited duration which causes disruption in the economy. Of a country. This is the meaning of disaster. The definition comes from the World Bank. So World Bank will always consider disaster in terms of the disruption in economy, right? The perspective of an economist, the perspective of an environmentalist, the perspective of a geographer, the perspective of an sociologist, they all differ. You know, their frame of thinking is different. So they look at the same thing, but they look at them differently. So they will define in different way, in very distinct ways. Right? So this definition comes from the World Bank. अब लिखो, by United Nations or UNDP, United Nations Development Program. According to UNDP, the occurrence of a sudden or major misfortune which disrupt the general functioning of a society or community and destroy the basic fabric which reverses the growth patterns, Now to me this looks like a much better comprehensive definition of disaster. So one from the World Bank, another from United Nations, and there are many more definitions coming to my mind, so you can write one more. According to an environmentalist, Lego, disaster means disruption in the ecological balance alteration in the general functioning of the environmental components, either by introduction of an alien element or loss of vitality from the given environment due to a set of anomalies either introduced by the natural forces or by the humans' unmindful acts, or by both. Okay, so you have three definitions on natural disaster now. Natural disaster to be classified, what are the types of natural disaster or other disaster? Why I'm calling it natural disaster? So the types of disaster, it is called tectonic disaster, topographical disaster, meteorological disaster, then you have the human disaster, and then you have one more infestic, infestic is a disaster. What are टेक्टोनिक डिजास्टर? आते हैं टेक्टोनिक डिजास्टर पे. टेक्टोनिक डिजास्टर्स विल सिंपली मीन अर्थक्वेक, वल्केनिज्म और मे बी सुनामी, इसमें एक और ऐड करना है मुझे, वो भी इंपॉर्टेंट है. hydrological. Actually, this gives you the largest framework to understand disaster, natural disaster and disaster management, right? So let's talk about the classification of disasters here. We have tectonic, so we have earthquake, volcanism, tsunami. Topographical will include landslides, maybe avalanche, landslides, avalanche, and maybe liquefaction, solifluction, maybe the mud flow. You can have one more, the mud flow. They are called topographical disasters. Tectonic disaster meaning because of the, लिख लो इसको, tectonic disasters. They are caused by, tectonic disasters are caused by the plate movements, or the endogenetic forces or the hypogene forces. Endogenetic forces which operate from within the earth. Like the seismic forces, volcanic forces, tectonic forces. So this is your tectonic. Disaster का पहला फॉर्म है टेक्टोनिक, दूसरा है टोपोग्राफिकल. टोपोग्राफिकल में say what is a topography? A mountain is a topography, plateau is a topography, a hill is a topography. Now landslides, gravity fall of the rocks, shattered rocks are falling in the valley, rolling down from the slope. So landslide. Avalanche is the breaking of ice cap and falling. This has immense velocity, very high velocity, very destructive avalanche. Liquefaction is when the soil and the rocks within the crust, they all become mud because of oversaturation. The hydrological condition sometimes is such, the rainfall is so high, where the underground water table is rising. So the rocks are saturated and they all become mud. That is called liquefaction. So in that case, the entire huge massive buildings will also collapse. Especially these conditions are found in the Sundarban Delta region, Bihar plains, the Bengal plains, the Assam plains, liquefaction. So high-rise buildings are not really possible there. And especially engineering work will be required. So we have liquefaction. बहुत सारे bridges, they also collapse because of liquefaction. So that is topographical disaster. Okay. Then you have mud flow, solifluction. Solifluction is found where in the permafrost region. Permafrost region meaning the soil of that region is having sub-zero temperature or cryogenic conditions of the soil. Sub-zero temperature hai. The temperature of the soil is less than below the freezing point. It's not that the soil is covered with ice. The soil itself is frozen. That is permafrost. Okay. And the permafrost region will have solifluction when during the summer time, when the sun, there is a high sun and the energy received is more, so the soil temperature becomes more than zero, more than freezing point. Now in that case, the entire the soil will be melting and soil will be moving down slope. So that will be called your solifluction. Mud flow will be because of the cloud burst. So you have cloud burst and sudden high rainfall. and the running water, the water which is running down the slope, will collect all the mud and all the soil, the sediments from the surrounding, and finally what you see, what you witness is flow of mud and the sediments. The water becomes invisible and the mud is moving down. So that's mud flow. They are called topographical. Then you have infestic. Infestic means जैसे locust invasion, the grasshopper, the cloud of locust will come and it will destroy the crops. This is also a kind of disaster. The areas which are hit by locust invasion, they actually meet disaster. It can cause famine in the long term. There is no food in that area. So you have locust invasion, that is infestic. You can have pandemics. Pandemics भी हो सकता है. COVID, epidemics, pandemics, they are called infestic disaster. Okay, then you have matlab infestic disasters are caused by biota or bio invasion. They are caused by bio invasion. They can be caused by microbes, meaning the bacteria and virus, the attack of bacteria and virus. They can also cause infestic disaster. So we have tectonic disaster, topographical disaster, infestic disaster. Now coming to meteorological disaster. जैसे you can take several examples. I'm making a space for it. So we have meteorological disaster will be like what? Flood. Flood is a meteorological disaster. And you can have drought. Drought also occurs because of meteorology. Then you can have cloud burst. Cloud burst. Then you can have cyclone. Cyclone is a natural disaster, meteorological disaster. Then you can have thunders, thunder and lightning. And you can have thunderstorms. Thunderstorms like Nor'wester and Kal Vaishakhi, which is found in North Bengal and Assam. So they are also natural disasters. Look at this entire grouping and the entire frame of disaster. I'm giving you a very elaborate explanation on what is disaster, right? This is your geographical topic, and from here itself, from environmental hazard itself, it begins, and you have to make notes also. It begins for your GS as well as your optional. Now coming to human disaster, what is a civil war? Human disaster क्या हो सकता है? Civil war or civil strife, communal rights, political war, they're all human disaster. Even that has to be managed, that has to be controlled. Political war, then human disaster will include obviously nuclear explosion, then pollution related disasters. ये सब ह्यूमन हो गया. Now coming to hydrological disaster. So you can have a storm upsurge. A storm upsurge. I would like to explain something here. When the cyclones are hitting the coast and the humans have destroyed the tidal forest. Tidal forest meaning mangroves. Mangroves actually protect the coast from the invasion of cyclones and tsunamis. They retard the ferocity and the aggression mitigate the aggression of the cyclones and the surges coming from the ocean. But when you remove the vegetation from the tidal zone, littoral zone, so you can have very strong storm of surges and the coastal areas will be destroyed, inundated with water, and disaster will struck. So a storm upsurge, hydrological may you can have flood as well. Now here it's not because of rainfall, this flood is because of breaking of the embankment, breaking of the reservoir. So hydrological may you can have all this. So this is the classification on natural disaster. I would like to see your SMS. के चौधरी, हॉट स्प्रिंग तो मैं बताऊंगा ना, क्यों चिंता करते हो। हम लोग नेचुरल डिजास्टर पे डील कर रहे हैं। रवि प्रकाश, अलका भारद्वाज, दीपक जून, विष्णु कुमार, ओके उदय मिश्रा, यू आर मोस्ट वेलकम। I hope Shivani your question has been duly responded. Enough for today, good enough for today. And hi Ravi Prakash, hi Preetham. I had a very tiring 1.5 hour, so I'm ending today, and I hope you enjoyed my explanation on environment and then on environmental hazard and the disaster. So the basic meaning has been given to you, definitions have been given to you. I will be continuing tomorrow, so come back tomorrow with more energy, more ecstatic minds, more curious, exquisitive frame of minds. Thank you for the day.